Hello, I'm Lynn Hall from the communications team at Rotherham Doncaster and Southumber NHS Foundation Trust, and I'm here today with Mike, who's going to tell us about his eating disorder and his recovery journey. Hello, Mike. When did you start with your eating disorder?
I was 13-year-old. It maybe happened a couple of years before that, but obviously I was in care, and they had to assess me for maybe 2 or 3 years before I could actually properly get diagnosed with anorexia. So I was about 13-year-old. It was hard, very hard. It frightened me, and I just rebelled. I wouldn't work with anybody because I couldn't accept it. I couldn't accept the illness. It's not that I couldn't accept it. I thought there was something wrong with me. I didn't feel right to the other children who I was in care with because they didn't have it, and I just thought I was the freak of the care role, and that sent my mental health right out the window, to be honest. It made me suffer. I used to pray on my mind all the time, and to be honest, it stopped me mingling with other kids. When I was going to schools, obviously I used to get bullied quite a lot because of how slim I was. And it was silly little things where it used to affect me, especially at school. As you can imagine, teenagers, they can be quite vicious. I wouldn't do PE, or if I had to do PE, I wouldn't go to school that day. I'd swag off. And it got to the point that I didn't like going to school because I did enjoy school, but it was the experience of having my illness and having to be around people who didn't have the illness because they used to bully me. And obviously that used to set my mental health even worse. I left school towards the middle of the last year, and I just jumped aboard the ships because obviously then I was living in Hull, and I couldn't do my exams or out like that because sitting in an hall with other teenagers, it was just never going to happen. So what I did was I left school at 15 and a half. I went straight to sea because I knew if I went to sea, I'd be working long hours and I wouldn't be forced to eat. And
So you became a fisherman.
yeah, I became a fisherman. At first I hated it because it was hard work, very hard work. And especially as we used to call greenhorns when you first went aboard a ship, and I wasn't qualified. It took me 3 years to get totally qualified to be a deckhand on a fishing vessel. And after the 4 years after I was qualified, I thought to myself, can I go back out into the big wide world? And I thought, no, I can't do it. So that's what I did. I ended up staying at sea for 20 odd years, and it helped me survive me.
So how did you hide eating or not eating?
When I was at sea, I was working long hours. We used to work anywhere between 18-hour shifts up to 36-hour shifts. And then you used to go off shift, and then you could maybe just have 4 hours. So all the lads used to clear off in the galley, would go and have meals. I used to just clear off in my bunk. And that's how I used to get away with it. And then when I used to get to the point where I was exhausted because I'd had no energy, I used to do sickies. I know this sounds bad, but when we used to be in cutting room, I'd cut my wrists, or I'd catch my elbows, I'd start cutting myself so I could have an excuse to not be on deck because I just didn't have the energy. And then I got with one good skipper. I stayed with him. I stayed on his vessel for 6 years, and towards the end, he called me, and he sussed it out, and he knew I had an illness, and he pulled me into the deck, and he just said to me, he says, "You're poorly, aren't you, lad?" And I went, "Yeah, boss." He went, "Right," he says, "for the rest of the trip," he says, "you're not coming on deck, lad." He says, "I can't." He says, "I can't let you work on deck." He says, "For safety," he says, "and I've got a responsibility to look after you as well." He says, "I've got to get you back ashore." And when we got back ashore, he said to me, "I'm still going to pay you, no matter what." He says, "You're going to get paid." He said, "Will you just do me a favour, please, mate? you're ashore for 2 days, get yourself to doctors, go and sort this out, please, son. He said, because if not, he says, I can't let you back aboard the ship. He says, and I need a letter off your doctor to say that you've been. He says, because otherwise, he says, you don't.
How many years has it taken you to get better?
So since 13, and it's only the last 5 years, so about 37 years.
Yeah. And how old are you now, Mark?
Out of 50. Yeah. It's took me about 37 years. It's been a long, hard 37 years. But the thing I want to get across, anybody suffering with this illness, please just stick with the services, because they do know what we're talking about and they are there to help. And if you stick with them, believe me, you will recover, and you will recover. It just takes a lot of time, because it's not an illness that will go overnight. It will never ever go all night, and I will advise anybody with the illness, it is a long road to recovery, and it is a long road to recovery, but every bit of that recovery is worthwhile.